The sultry August evening in Savannah, Georgia, in 2016, wrapped the historic district in a humid embrace. The cobblestone streets glistening with the day's heat. The Savannah River shimmering like molten gold under the glow of wrought-iron streetlights. The Cathedral of St. John the Baptist standing tall with its twin spires piercing the twilight sky, casting long shadows over the moss-draped live oaks that lined the squares. Nathan Harper sat at a candlelit table inside the old Pink House, a historic restaurant known for its pink stucco walls and southern charm, the air inside heavy with the scent of shrimp and grits, cornbread and magnolia blossoms from the centerpiece. The soft flicker of the candle casting a warm glow on Nathan's face, his hazel eyes steady and unreadable, his calloused hands resting calmly on the linen tablecloth. A glass of bourbon in front of him, its amber hue catching the light across. From him sat Charlotte Evans, his wife of 6 years. Her emerald green dress clinging to her frame, the fabric shimmering with every movement. Her blonde hair swept into an elegant updo, a few tendrils framing her face, her green eyes cold and defiant as she sipped her Chardonnay. Her voice cutting through the warm southern night like a shard of ice. "I don't regret a single thing," she declared, her tone so calm it bordered on mockery, the words hanging in the air like a guillotine. Each syllable, a deliberate strike meant to wound, to provoke, to assert her control. Nathan didn't flinch, didn't let the sting of her words show. Instead, he sipped his bourbon slowly, the burn of the liquor a sharp contrast to the icy calm he projected. His expression a mask of indifference, not a trace of the storm brewing inside him. The jazz piano in the corner played a haunting rendition of Georgia on My Mind, the notes weaving through the intimate dining room. A waiter in a crisp white shirt and black vest hovered nearby, his hands clasped nervously. Sensing the tension at the table, Charlotte smirked, her lips curling with a confidence that bordered on arrogance, expecting Nathan to crumble, to beg for her to stay, to plead for another chance to salvage their crumbling marriage. She thought this dinner was a desperate gesture, a last-ditch effort from a man too weak to let go. But she was wrong. This wasn't a reconciliation. This was a funeral, the final act of a marriage that had died long before this night. Nathan had chosen this restaurant for a reason, its elegance, its intimacy, its quiet control. He wanted Charlotte to feel safe, to feel powerful, to let her guard down. He wanted her, too. Believe she was in charge. The river outside flowed with the weight of Savannah's history, its waters carrying the secrets of generations. The cathedral's spires stood as a silent witness to the unraveling of their bond. The Spanish moss swayed gently in the breeze, a quiet prelude to the chaos Nathan knew would erupt by dawn. Chaos that would strip Charlotte of her smug certainty. A chaos that would leave her on her knees, begging for the forgiveness she once scorned. The night was thick with tension, the air charged with unspoken truths. The candle's flame danced between them, a fragile light in the face of the darkness to come. Nathan's heart beat steadily. His mind clear, he knew what was coming, and he was ready. This was the beginning of the end. And by morning, Charlotte would learn the true meaning of regret. A regret that would echo through the historic streets of Savannah. A regret that would mark the end of everything she thought she controlled. The late summer heat of September 2015 draped Savannah, Georgia, in a heavy, suffocating blanket. The air thick with the scent of blooming magnolias and the briny temps of the nearby Savannah River, which wound through the city like a restless serpent, its waters reflecting the golden glow of streetlights as dusk settled over the historic district. Nathan Harper stood on the narrow balcony of their historic row house on Jones Street. A charming two-story home with weathered brick and black shutters, the sagging branches of ancient live oaks draped in Spanish moss, framing the view, their shadows stretching long and eerie across the cobblestone street below. Nathan's calloused hands, rough from years of labor at the port of Savannah, gripped the wrought-iron railing, his hazel eyes clouded with a growing unease. The distant hum of cargo ships unloading at the port, a familiar soundtrack to his daily grind, reminder of the long hours he spent ensuring the family's stability. Inside the house, Charlotte Evans moved with a detached efficiency, her blonde hair tied back in a loose ponytail, her green eyes avoiding Nathan's gaze as she packed her gym bag. Her phone buzzing incessantly on the kitchen counter with notifications she quickly silenced. Her excuses had become a ritual: late nights at the bank where she worked as a loan officer, client dinners that stretched past midnight, networking events that seemed to multiply with each passing week. Nathan noticed the sharp, unfamiliar scent of her new perfume, a floral note with a hint of citrus that lingered in the air when she returned home. A scent he'd never smelled on her before, a scent that felt like a stranger in their shared space. He noticed the way she flinched when he reached for her, her body tensing as if his touch was an intrusion, the way her laughter felt rehearsed, a hollow echo of the warmth they once shared. Her gym bag, always packed with clothes he'd never seen her wear, sat by the door. Her makeup untouched after hours of alleged sweat, her nails freshly manicured despite her claims of a grueling workout. The air between them was thick with unspoken questions, tension that had been building for months. Nathan's heart, heavy with suspicion. Each small detail a thread in a tapestry of doubt he could no longer ignore. The river outside flowed with a quiet indifference, its waters carrying the weight of Savannah's history. The Cathedral of St. John the Baptist's bells tolled in the distance, their mournful chime a haunting reminder of the vows they'd made under its stained glass 5 years ago, vows that now felt like a distant memory, a promise eroded by Charlotte's growing distance. The Spanish moss swayed gently in the evening breeze, its tendrils like a shroud over the city's secrets. A tense and uneasy atmosphere enveloped the row house, the shadows of the oaks creeping closer, Nathan's doubts growing like the darkness that swallowed the street. A quiet storm brewing in the heart of a man who had loved too deeply to ignore the truth, a truth that threatened to unravel the life they'd built, a truth that would soon shatter the illusion of their southern charm, a truth that would set Nathan on a path of discovery, a path that would lead him to confront the betrayal lurking in the shadows of their marriage, a betrayal that would change everything in the historic heart of Savannah, a betrayal that would test the limits of his patience and love. The fog rolled in thick and heavy over the port of Savannah on a chilly October morning in 2015. Blanketing the bustling docks in a ghostly haze, the Savannah River churning with the wake of massive cargo ships, their horns cutting through the stillness like mournful cries. The city's skyline, a faint silhouette against the gray sky. Nathan Harper stood on the weathered wooden planks of the dock, his work boots scuffed and muddy, his flannel shirt damp with the morning mist, his hazel eyes distant and troubled. As he took a break from unloading crates, the scent of diesel and salt water filling the air, the shouts of dock workers and the clanging of metal echoing around him, Nathan's mind was elsewhere, replaying the months of suspicion that had gnawed at him. The late nights, the excuses, the coldness in Charlotte's touch. He'd driven to the port in his old pickup truck that morning, a rare moment when Charlotte had asked him to drop off her lunch, a gesture that felt more like an obligation than affection. She'd left her phone unlocked on the passenger seat, its screen lighting up with a notification as Nathan parked, a text from Ryan C. Popped up. The message: preview reading last night was unreal. Can't wait for round 2. Followed by a winking emoji. Nathan's stomach dropped like a stone into the murky river, his breath catching in his throat, his hands trembling. As he picked up the phone, scrolling through the thread, each message a dagger to his heart. Texts detailing hotel meetups at the Bohemian Hotel on the riverfront. Late-night calls that ended with laughter, Charlotte's replies dripping with flirtation. Can't wait to see you again, babe. One read, another. You'll never suspect a thing. The betrayal laid bare in black and white. A raw wound exposed to the salty air. The hum of cranes and the shouts of his coworkers faded into a dull roar drowned out by the pounding of his own heartbeat. Nathan drove home through the oak-lined streets of the historic district, the Spanish moss hanging from the trees like a noose, a grim reminder of the weight of his discovery. He pulled into the driveway of their row house on Jones Street, the charming facade of the home now a mockery of the life they'd built. Charlotte was in the kitchen, her blonde hair damp from a shower, a towel wrapped around her, her green eyes narrowing as she saw the look on Nathan's face. "You went through my phone," she snapped, her voice sharp and defensive, no trace of guilt, no hint of remorse, just defiance. Nathan's voice was low, barely above a whisper. I saw enough, his words heavy with the pain of betrayal. Charlotte's silence was a confirmation. Her lack of apology, a slap in the face. The Cathedral of St. John the Baptist's bells tolled in the distance, their somber chime a haunting echo of the vows she'd broken. The river outside a silent witness to the fracture of their marriage. The fog rolling in thicker, cloaking the city in a shroud of uncertainty. A raw and devastating atmosphere enveloped the kitchen, the air charged with the electricity of unspoken truths. Nathan's world crumbled under the weight of a truth. He could no longer deny a truth that fueled a quiet rage deep within him, a rage that would drive him to seek justice. A rage that would set the stage for a reckoning in the heart of Savannah, a reckoning that would expose Charlotte's betrayal to the light, a betrayal that would change everything in the historic streets of this southern city, a betrayal that would mark the beginning of Nathan's fight for his own redemption. The crisp autumn air of late October 2015 swept through Savannah, Georgia, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and the briny temps of the Savannah River, which wound through the city like a lifeline, its waters reflecting the fiery hues of the season, deep oranges, reds, and gold sunder, a sky streaked with the last light of day. The live oaks lining the historic district stood tall, their branches heavy with Spanish moss that swayed like ghostly tendrils in the breeze. Nathan Harper sat in the dim light of his row house on Jones Street, the charming two-story home now a hollow shell of the life he once knew, his hazel eyes sharp with a steely determination, his calloused hands steady as he installed a small voice-activated camera behind a stack of books on the bedroom shelf, its lens hidden among the spines of old novels Charlotte never read, another camera disguised in a lamp in the living room, its tiny eye watching silently. Nathan's movements were methodical, precise, each step a piece of a larger plan. The Spanish moss outside the window cast eerie shadows on the hardwood floor, a reminder of the secrets this city held. Secrets Nathan was determined to uncover. He sat at the kitchen table late into the night, the glow of his laptop illuminating, his face, his fingers moving swiftly as he backed up Charlotte's emails. Her calendar, her messages, every client meeting a lie. Every late night at the bank a cover for her affair with Ryan Carter, junior colleague at her bank, a man 10 years her junior with a cocky grin and a penchant for flashy watches. Nathan tracked her patterns with the precision of a hunter. Perfume when she returned home, a sharp floral scent that clung to her clothes, her excuses that grew more elaborate with each passing day. The way she laughed on the phone when she thought he wasn't listening, her voice light and flirtatious, a tone she hadn't used with him in years. The Cathedral of St. John the Baptist's stained glass glowed in the distance, its vibrant colors a mockery of the vows they'd made beneath its arches. Vows Charlotte had shattered with her betrayal. Nathan's nights were consumed by his investigation, his days at the port of Savannah, a blur of physical labor and mental preparation, the hum of ships and the shouts of dock workers a distant echo of his resolve. He printed screenshots of hotel bookings at the Bohemian Hotel texts, to RC, filled with promises of stolen moments. Can't wait to see you tonight. One read, another, he's clueless, don't worry. Each message a nail in the coffin of their marriage. The river outside flowed with the weight of Nathan's pain, its currents carrying the history of a city built on resilience, the Spanish moss a shroud over the truth Nathan was piecing together. A tense and methodical atmosphere filled the row house, the air heavy with the anticipation of what was to come. Nathan's heart hardened with every piece of evidence. Each discovery a step closer to the reckoning he knew was inevitable. A reckoning that would leave Charlotte with nowhere to hide, a reckoning that would expose her lies to the world, a reckoning that would echo through the historic streets of Savannah, a reckoning that would mark the beginning of Nathan's fight for justice, a fight that would reclaim his dignity, a fight that would show Charlotte the consequences of her betrayal, a fight that would set the stage for a confrontation that would change everything in this southern city, a confrontation that would leave an indelible mark on their lives, a confrontation that would prove Nathan was no longer the man she thought she could deceive. The November rain fell in relentless sheets over Savannah, Georgia in 2015, transforming the cobblestone streets of the historic district into slick, reflective rivers. The Savannah River swollen and turbulent, its dark waters churning with the storm's fury. The city's ancient live oaks stood stoic, their branches dripping with water, the Spanish moss hanging heavy and dark. Swaying like mournful ghosts in the wind, Nathan Harper sat in a dimly lit corner of a bar on River Street, a weathered establishment called The Gray, its exposed brick walls and reclaimed wood tables exuding a rugged charm. The scent of whiskey, fried oysters, and damp leather filled the air. The jukebox in the corner played a mournful country tune, its twangy notes weaving through the hum of conversation. Nathan's hazel eyes were tired but focused, his calloused hands wrapped around a glass of bourbon, amber liquid catching the flicker of the bar's neon lights. Across from him sat Lydia Evans, Charlotte's younger sister. Her blonde hair, a mirror of her sister's, but her green eyes softer, filled with a guilt that weighed on her like the rain outside. Her voice trembled as she leaned forward, her hands fidgeting with a coaster. "I can't keep pretending I don't know," she whispered, her words barely audible over the patter of rain against the bar's fogged-up windows. Lydia's confession came like a thunderclap, revealing Charlotte's affair with Ryan Carter, her junior colleague at the bank, a man with a flashy smile and a reckless charm. She brags about how you'll never leave, says you're too soft. "Too loyal," Lydia said, her voice cracking, each word a dagger in Nathan's chest. The rain pounded harder, a relentless drumbeat that mirrored the storm in his heart. The river outside a mirror to his turmoil, its currents carrying the weight of his pain. Lydia's hands shook as she slid a small USB drive across the table, its black plastic surface gleaming under the bar's dim lights. "Check her email, her work trips folder," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's all their hotels, messages, everything." Nathan took the drive, his jaw tight, his fingers closing around it like a lifeline. The Cathedral of St. John the Baptist's bells tolled through the storm, their deep, resonant chime, a haunting reminder of the vows Charlotte had broken. Vows spoken under the cathedral's stained glass, vows now shattered by her betrayal. The bar's neon lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the brick walls. A tense and emotional atmosphere enveloped the small table, the air thick with the weight of Lydia's confession. The Spanish moss outside swayed like a ghost, its tendrils a symbol of the secrets that haunted this city. Nathan's resolve hardened, the rain a fitting backdrop to the betrayal he could no longer ignore, a betrayal that would soon be exposed. A betrayal that would set the stage for a reckoning in the heart of Savannah, reckoning that would force Charlotte to face the consequences of her actions, a reckoning that would leave her with nothing but the wreckage of her own choices, a reckoning that would echo through the historic streets of this southern city, a reckoning that would mark the beginning of Nathan's fight for justice, a fight that would reclaim his dignity, a fight that would show Charlotte the true cost of her arrogance, a fight that would prove he was not the man she thought she could break, a fight that would change everything in the rainy, historic heart of Savannah, a fight that would leave an indelible mark on their lives, a fight that would prove the strength of a man who had been underestimated for far too long. The first frost of December 2015 settled over Savannah, Georgia, like a delicate veil, the Savannah River a glassy expanse under the pale morning light, its surface shimmering with a thin layer of ice that caught the weak winter sun. The city's live oaks stood stark against the gray sky, their branches glittering with frost, the Spanish moss frozen in time. Hanging like crystalline tendrils that sparkled in the dawn, Nathan Harper sat at the kitchen table of his row house on Jones Street. The charming two-story home, now a battlefield of memories, its walls once filled with laughter, now echoing with silence, his hazel eyes cold with a steely determination, his calloused hands steady as he spread out a stack of printed emails, hotel receipts and screenshots across the table, each piece of evidence a testament to Charlotte's betrayal. His laptop glowed with the digital trail of her affair. Ryan Carter, a junior colleague at her bank, a man whose arrogance matched his youth. Nathan's fingers moved with precision as he organized the evidence, his mind a fortress of resolve. He'd already met with a lawyer in a small office on Bull Street, quaint space with creaky wooden floors, and the scent of old books and coffee lingering in the air. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Margaret, had listened to Nathan's story with a quiet intensity, her pen scratching notes as he shared the details of Charlotte's infidelity. They drafted divorce papers with meticulous care, ensuring every clause protected Nathan's interests. He transferred his savings to a protected personal account, a move that was legal but strategic, severing Charlotte's access to their joint funds. He canceled her gym membership, her streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, her credit card auto payments for the nail salon she frequented, every action a deliberate step to dismantle her world. Nathan packed sentimental items into a storage unit on the outskirts of Savannah, a small nondescript facility near the port, his father's pocketknife, a worn leather-bound journal from his grandfather, their wedding album, though he hesitated. Before adding it, the photo is a painful reminder of a love that had turned to ash. He kept the album in a locked box, unable to fully let go of the past. The Cathedral of St. John the Baptist's stained glass glowed in the distance, its vibrant colors a cruel mockery of the vows he once believed in, vows Charlotte had shattered with her affair. Nathan's nights were spent on the balcony, a glass of bourbon in hand, the cold air biting at his skin as he watched the ships at the port of Savannah, their lights twinkling like stars against the dark water, the hum of their engines a distant echo of his resolve. The river outside reflected the icy sky, its currents carrying the weight of his pain, the Spanish moss a shroud over the city's secrets. A shroud that Nathan was slowly unraveling. A methodical and chilling atmosphere filled the row house, the air heavy with the anticipation of what was to come. The frost outside a fitting metaphor for the coldness of Nathan's plan. A plan that would strip Charlotte of everything she took for granted. A plan that would expose her lies to the world. A plan that would echo through the historic streets of Savannah. A plan that would mark the beginning of Nathan's fight for justice. A fight that would reclaim his dignity. A fight that would show Charlotte the consequences of her betrayal. A fight that would set the stage for a confrontation that would change everything in this southern city. A confrontation that would leave an indelible mark on their lives. A confrontation that would prove Nathan was no longer the man she thought she could deceive. A confrontation that would bring the truth to light in the frosty heart of Savannah. A truth that would set Nathan free. The humid air of Savannah, Georgia, on a swelteringly unbearable August night in 2016, clung to the historic district like a second skin. The cobblestone streets radiating the day's heat, the Savannah River a dark, glassy mirror reflecting the golden glow of streetlights, the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist's twin spires piercing the twilight sky. Their silhouette a solemn reminder of broken promises. Nathan Harper sat at a candlelit table inside the old Pink House, a historic restaurant with pink stucco walls and an air of southern elegance, the scent of magnolias, shrimp and grits, and cornbread wafting through the intimate dining room. The soft flicker of the candle casting a warm glow on Nathan's face, his hazel eyes unreadable, his suit crisp despite the oppressive heat, his calloused hands resting calmly on the linen tablecloth, a glass of bourbon in front of him, its amber hue catching the light like a firefly in the night. Across from him sat Charlotte Evans, his wife of 6 years, her emerald green dress shimmering with every movement, the fabric hugging her frame, her blonde hair swept into an elegant updo, a few tendrils framing her face, her green eyes cold and defiant as she sipped her Chardonnay, her voice sharp and cutting as she declared, "I don't regret a single thing," the words slicing through the warm southern night like a shard of ice. Each syllable a deliberate strike meant to wound, to assert her dominance, to remind Nathan of her perceived control. Nathan sipped his bourbon slowly, the burn of the liquor a sharp contrast to the icy calm he projected, his expression a mask of indifference. Not a trace of the storm brewing inside him, the jazz piano in the corner played a haunting rendition of Georgia on My Mind, its notes weaving through the dining room like a mournful thread. A waiter in a crisp white shirt and black vest hovered nearby, his hands clasped nervously. Sensing the tension that crackled between the couple, Charlotte smirked, her lips curling with a confidence that bordered on arrogance, expecting Nathan to crumble, to beg for her to stay, to plead for another chance to salvage their crumbling marriage. She thought this dinner was a desperate gesture, a last-ditch effort from a man too weak to let go, but she was wrong. This wasn't a reconciliation. This was the final act, the curtain call of a marriage that had died long before this night. Nathan had chosen this restaurant for its elegance, its intimacy, its quiet control. He wanted Charlotte to feel safe, to feel powerful, to let her guard down. He wanted her to believe she was in charge. He reached into his suit jacket and placed a small envelope on the table, Charlotte's name. Written in neat cursive on the front, the paper crisp and white against the linen tablecloth. "Read it when you're home," he said, his voice steady. His eyes locked on hers. "By dawn, you'll be begging for forgiveness," Charlotte scoffed, green eyes rolling with disdain. "You're being dramatic," she sneered, her tone dripping with mockery. Nathan stood, pushing in his chair with a deliberate slowness. "Maybe," he replied, his voice calm but laced with a quiet menace. He turned and walked away, leaving her with her wine and her illusion of control. The river outside flowed with the weight of Savannah's history, its waters carrying the secrets of generations. The cathedral's bells told a mournful note. A dramatic and foreboding atmosphere enveloped the restaurant. The Spanish moss outside swayed like a warning. Nathan's departure a quiet signal of the chaos to come. A chaos that would unravel Charlotte's world. A chaos that would leave her with nothing but the bitter taste of regret, a regret she once laughed at. A regret that would echo through the historic streets of Savannah. A regret that would mark the end of everything she thought she controlled. A regret that would prove Nathan's strength in the face of her betrayal. A betrayal that would change everything in this southern city. A betrayal that would leave an indelible mark on their lives. A betrayal that would show the true cost of her arrogance. The dawn broke over Savannah, Georgia, on a swelteringly unbearable August morning in 2016. The first rays of sunlight piercing through the heavy humidity, casting a golden glow over the Savannah River, its waters shimmering like molten glass under the rising sun. The city's live oaks stood tall in the historic district, their branches heavy with Spanish moss that glistened with morning dew, the air thick with the scent of magnolias and the briny temps of the river. Charlotte Evans woke with a start. In a room at the Bohemian Hotel, a boutique establishment on the riverfront where she'd spent the night after the dinner with Nathan, her emerald green dress lay crumpled on the floor, a stark reminder of the confidence she'd worn like armor the night before. Her blonde hair was disheveled, strands sticking to her sweat-dampened forehead. Her green eyes widened with panic. As her phone buzzed incessantly on the nightstand, notifications piling up like a storm, her credit cards declined. Her bank app locked with a message-reading account frozen, her email flooded with messages from her boss at the bank. The subject line of the latest one reading, "Administrative leave, effective immediately." The words a punch to her gut, a cold realization sinking in. Nathan's envelope lay open on the nightstand, its contents spilling out like a confession screenshots. Of her texts with Ryan Carter, hotel receipts from their secret meetups, timestamps of her work trips that overlapped with company hours. Each piece of evidence a nail in the coffin of her carefully constructed life. Charlotte's hands shook as she scrolled through her phone, her calls to Nathan going straight to voicemail, her texts, "What did you do? Why is my card declining?" Unanswered, the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist's bells tolled in the distance. Their deep, resonant chime, a haunting reminder of the vows she'd broken, vows spoken under the cathedral's stained glass. Vows now shattered by her betrayal, Charlotte's world unraveled thread by thread. She learned through a frantic call from a coworker that Ryan had been dumped by his girlfriend after Nathan sent her the evidence. His job at the bank now on the line, her own career crumbling under the weight of Nathan's calculated revenge. She stumbled to the hotel window, the river outside a witness to her downfall. Its currents carrying the weight of her shame, the Spanish moss a shroud over the life she'd once known. A frantic and devastating atmosphere enveloped the hotel room, the air thick with the stench of her own panic. Charlotte's mind raced as she tried to piece together the extent of Nathan's actions. Her once unshakable confidence replaced by a raw, unfiltered fear, she called Nathan again, her voice breaking in a voicemail. "Please, just talk to me. I don't know what's happening," but the silence on the other end was deafening. A punishment more severe than any words. Nathan's absence, a stark reminder of the control he now held, the control she'd once mocked. The sun rose higher, its light harsh and unforgiving, illuminating the wreckage of Charlotte's life. A life she'd built on lies, a life now exposed to the world. A life that would echo through the historic streets of Savannah. It's a life that would leave her with nothing but the bitter taste of regret. A regret she once laughed at. A regret that now consumed her. A regret that marked the end of everything she thought she controlled. A regret that proved Nathan's strength in the face of her betrayal. A betrayal that had changed everything in this southern city. A betrayal that had left an indelible mark on their lives. A betrayal that had shown the true cost of her arrogance. A betrayal that had stripped her of everything she held dear. A betrayal that had left her alone in the harsh light of dawn. A dawn that brought not hope, but the cold reality of her own destruction. The late August sun beat down mercilessly on Savannah, Georgia in 2016. Its relentless heat turning the cobblestone streets of the historic district into a shimmering mirage. The Savannah River, a blinding expanse under the midday glare, its waters reflecting the harsh light like a mirror of judgment. The city's live oaks drooped under the weight of the humidity, their branches heavy with Spanish moss that hung like a shroud, swaying gently in the stifling breeze. Charlotte Evans stood on the porch of their row house on Jones Street, the charming two-story home now a monument to her mistakes, her blonde hair disheveled, strands clinging to her tear-streaked face, her green eyes red and swollen from hours of crying, her makeup smeared in streaks of black mascara and smudged lipstick, her voice breaking as she knocked on the door. "Nathan, please, just talk to me." Her pleas echoed through the quiet street. A desperate cry that mingled with the distant hum of cargo ships at the port of Savannah. Nathan Harper watched from the upstairs window, his hazel eyes cold and unyielding, his heart a fortress against her tears, his calloused hands gripping the windowsill. The Cathedral of St. John the Baptist's bells tolled in the distance, their deep, resonant chime, a haunting reminder of the vows she'd broken. Vows spoken under the cathedral's stained glass, vows now shattered by her betrayal. Charlotte clutched her phone, her career in ruins after Nathan's email to her boss. Her affair with Ryan Carter exposed to the world, Ryan now out of her life, his own reputation tarnished. Her world collapsed like a house of cards. She knocked again, her voice raw. "I made a mistake, Nathan. Please, I'm begging you." The words a stark contrast to the arrogance she'd shown at the old pink house. Nathan opened the door, his expression unyielding, his suit from the night before replaced by a simple t-shirt and jeans. He handed her a small cardboard box. Its contents a final severance, her wedding ring, the spare house key, and a copy of the divorce papers. "This is yours," he said, his voice steady, devoid of emotion. Charlotte's hands trembled as she took the box, her fingers brushing against a second envelope he placed on top. "What's this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Nathan's gaze was piercing. "Your own words," he replied. Inside the envelope were printed texts, emails and calendar invites, every excuse, every lie, every moment of her betrayal laid bare. A mirror to the life she'd destroyed. "I didn't want you to forget who wrote this story," Nathan said, his tone cold but final. He stepped back, closing the door with a quiet click. The river outside, a witness to the end of their marriage, its currents carrying the weight of her shame. The Spanish moss a shroud over the past they'd shared, a raw and emotional atmosphere enveloped the porch, the air thick with the weight of Charlotte's regret. A regret she once swore she'd never feel, a regret that now consumed her. Nathan's silence, a final blow. A blow that left her with nothing but the wreckage of her choices, a wreckage that echoed through the historic streets of Savannah. A wreckage that marked the end of a love that had once burned bright. A wreckage that proved Nathan's strength in the face of her betrayal. A betrayal that had changed everything in this southern city. A betrayal that had left an indelible mark on their lives. A betrayal that had shown the true cost of her arrogance. A betrayal that had stripped her of everything she held dear. A betrayal that had left her alone in the harsh light of day. A day that brought not redemption, but the cold reality of her own destruction. A reality that would haunt her for years to come, a reality that would serve as a lesson in the historic heart of Savannah. A lesson about the consequences of breaking a heart that loved too deeply. The spring of 2017 bloomed vibrantly in Savannah, Georgia, transforming the historic district into a canvas of color. The Savannah River sparkling under the warm April sun, its waters dancing with the reflections of a clear blue sky, the city's. Live oaks stood lush with new leaves, their branches heavy with Spanish moss that swayed gently in the breeze. The air filled with the scent of blooming azaleas, magnolias, and the briny temps of the river. Nathan Harper stood on the balcony of his row house on Jones Street. The charming two-story home, now a sanctuary of peace, its weathered brick and black shutters glowing in the morning light. A mug of black coffee warmed his calloused hands, the steam rising in delicate curls. His hazel eyes softened with a quiet contentment, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. The distant hum of cargo ships at the port of Savannah, a familiar comfort, a reminder of the life he'd reclaimed. The Cathedral of St. John the Baptist's twin spires glowed in the morning light, their silhouette a reminder of a past he'd overcome, a past that no longer held him captive. Nathan's home was now truly his own, the walls repainted in warm blues and soft grays, the hardwood floors polished to a shine. His father's pocketknife rested on the mantel, a small but meaningful heirloom. A new photo of him at the port hung on the wall, a candid shot of him laughing with his coworkers. Their faces lit with camaraderie. There was no trace of Charlotte in the house, her belongings long gone, her texts ignored, her voicemails deleted. Her regret a distant echo that no longer reached him. Nathan had spent the winter rebuilding himself, piece by piece, finding solace in the rhythm of his work at the port, the physical labor a balm to his wounded heart. He'd started cooking again, a ritual that brought him joy. Every Sunday he made shrimp and grits, the scent of garlic, butter, fresh seafood filling the house, a nod to the southern traditions he'd grown up with. His evenings were spent on the porch, a glass of bourbon in hand. The amber liquid, catching the golden light of the setting sun, he'd sit in a rocking chair, listening to the wind rustle through the oaks. The sound a soothing melody, the river outside reflected the golden light, its currents carrying away the last remnants of his pain, the Spanish moss, a symbol of renewal, a testament to the city's ability to endure. A warm and hopeful atmosphere enveloped the row house, the air light with the promise of new beginnings. Nathan's heart was lighter than it had been in years, life reclaimed from the ashes of betrayal, the port a testament to his resilience. The cathedral, a beacon of his freedom, a freedom that came from walking away from a love that had turned toxic. A freedom that echoed through the historic streets of Savannah, a freedom that proved he was no longer a victim, but a man who had found peace in the city he loved. He'd started to reconnect with old friends, joining them for fishing trips on the river, their laughter filling the air as they cast their lines. He'd even begun to notice the beauty around him again, the way the sunlight filtered through the moss, the way the river sparkled at dawn. Nathan was no longer defined by Charlotte's betrayal. He was a man who had fought for his dignity, a man who had won, a man who had rediscovered joy in the simple pleasures of life, a man who had found a new chapter in the historic heart of Savannah, a chapter that spoke of healing, a chapter that spoke of hope, a chapter that proved the strength of a heart that refused to break, a chapter that would inspire others in this southern city, a chapter that would leave an indelible mark on his life, a mark of triumph, a mark of peace, a mark of a man who had truly lived.